The morning started like any other on Serenity Prime. The twin suns cast their gentle light across the crystal towers of the Villani capital. In the communication center, Deho adjusted his headset and prepared for another quiet day of monitoring routine transmissions between colony worlds. The Villani were a peaceful people. Their pale blue skin and large dark eyes made them look fragile to most other species in the galaxy. They had no armies, no weapons, no concept of war. For 3,000 years they had lived in harmony, growing the most beautiful gardens and the most nutritious food in known space. Deho sipped his morning tea, made from flowers that bloomed only in perfect peace. The liquid was warm and sweet, like everything else in his world. He checked the long-range sensors and began his daily reports. Colony ships reported safe arrivals. Trade vessels shared news of successful harvests. Everything was normal. Then the emergency signal came through. The communication array screamed with alarms. Red lights flashed across Deho's control panel. His teacup fell from his hands, shattering on the floor as he lunged for the controls. The signal was coming from Haven's Rest, a small farming colony 3 sectors away. "This is Haven's Rest calling anyone who can hear us," a young voice crackled through the static. The signal was weak and broken. "We need help. Please, someone help us." Deho's hands shook as he worked to clean up the transmission. The voice belonged to Taiman, a colonist he had spoken with many times during routine check-ins. But this was not routine. Fear filled every word. "They came out of nowhere," Taiman continued. "Big ships with red markings. They call themselves the Crimson Horde. They destroyed our orbital stations and landed troops on the surface. They want tribute. Food, resources, everything we have." Deho opened a direct channel. "Taiman, this is Serenity Prime. What exactly do they want?" "Everything," came the reply. "They want half our harvest, all our processed foods, and our farming equipment. If we don't give it to them in 7 days, they say they'll take it all and sell us as slaves." The words hit Deho like a physical blow. Slavery was something the Villani only knew from history books. They had never encountered such cruelty in their lifetimes. How many of them are there? 12 ships, big ones. And their leader, he's called Vexstar. He's not like us, Deho. He's covered in scales and has teeth like knives. When he speaks, people die. Deho saved the transmission and ran through the crystal corridors to find Boram, the council leader. His bare feet slapped against the smooth floors as he rushed past gardens and meditation pools. Other Villani stopped to stare at him. They had never seen anyone run in panic before. Boram was in the council chamber, a round room with walls made of living trees. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the floor. She was an old Villani, her skin more silver than blue, her eyes filled with the wisdom of many peaceful years. "Boram," Deho gasped, still catching his breath. "Haven's Rest is under attack." Boram's face went pale. "Attack? What do you mean?" Deho played the transmission. As Taiman's frightened voice filled the chamber, other council members gathered. Their faces showed the same shock and confusion. Or was something they did not understand? "What do we do?" asked Yeonsu, the youngest council member. "We have no weapons, no soldiers. We don't even know how to fight." "We could pay the tribute," suggested an older member named Kyujin. "Gather resources from other colonies and give the raiders what they want." Boram shook her head. "If we pay once, they will come back. Raiders always come back for more." "Then we evacuate Haven's Rest," said another member. "Bring the colonists here and abandon their homes." "Their life's work?" Boram's voice was sad. "That colony has been their home for 50 years. Those gardens, those farms, they cannot be replaced." The council fell silent. They were gardeners and philosophers, not warriors. The galaxy had other species who dealt with such problems, but the Villani had always avoided them. Deho cleared his throat. "There is one option we haven't discussed." All eyes turned to him. He felt small under their gaze, but he continued. "We could ask the humans for help." The silence that followed was heavy and cold. Several council members stepped back. Others whispered prayers under their breath. The Deathworlders? Boram's voice was barely a whisper. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They came from a planet called Earth, a world so dangerous that just living there was considered impossible by most species. The story said that everything on Earth tried to kill everything else. The weather could freeze or burn you. The animals were all predators. Even the plants were poisonous, and the humans who survived such a place. They were different. They were strong and fast and smart in ways that seemed impossible. They could fight in conditions that would kill other species. They could eat food that was poison to others. They could heal from wounds that would be fatal to anyone else. The galaxy feared them, not because humans were cruel, but because they were so very good at surviving. And in a galaxy full of peaceful species, that made them the ultimate predators. They have helped other species before, Deho said quietly. The records show they fought off the Keldarian pirates near the Vega system. They stopped the slavers at Proxima Station. But at what cost? Asked Yansu. The stories say that when humans fight, nothing is left standing. Boram stood and walked to the great window. Outside, their beautiful city stretched to the horizon. Gardens and parks, homes and schools, all built in perfect harmony with nature. It was everything the Villani valued, everything they had worked for centuries to create. If we ask the humans for help, she said slowly, we invite monsters into our home. If we don't, Deho replied, the monsters are already here. Boram closed her eyes and made the hardest decision of her life. Send the message, she said. Ask the Deathworlders for help, and may the spirits of our ancestors forgive us for what we're about to unleash. Deho returned to his station with heavy steps. His hands trembled as he composed the message that would change everything. As he sent it into space toward human territory, he wondered if they were making a terrible mistake. In 7 days, they would have their answer. The TDC destroyer Indomitable moved through space like a predator hunting in the dark. Its black hull absorbed light, making it nearly invisible against the starfield. Inside, Captain Hyunwoo sat in his command chair, reviewing reports from their latest mission. They had just finished clearing out a pirate base in the Kepler sector. 3 weeks of hunting raiders through asteroid fields and nebulae, 47 pirates captured. Their stolen goods returned to the rightful owners, not a single civilian casualty. It was good work, the kind that made Hyunwoo proud to wear the Terran Defense Coalition uniform. The captain was a big man, even by human standards. Scars from old battles marked his face and hands. His eyes were dark and sharp, missing nothing. He had been fighting pirates and slavers for 15 years, ever since joining the TDC. Some people called him hard. Others called him brutal. But everyone agreed he got results. Captain, called Yoonji from the tactical station. We're receiving a priority transmission from Sector 7. Hyunwoo frowned. Sector 7 was deep in peaceful territory, far from any trouble spots. Put it through. The message was in broken standard, heavily accented. Hyunwoo recognized the voice pattern as Villani. The blue-skinned gardeners were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature and beautiful farms. This is the Villani Council on Serenity Prime. We need help. Our colony at Haven's Rest is under attack by the Crimson Horde. They demand tribute in 7 days or they will destroy everything. We have no military, no weapons. We know humans are dangerous, but we have nowhere else to turn. Please help us. Yoonji looked up from her console. The Crimson Horde? That's Vextar's fleet. Hyunwoo nodded grimly. He knew the name well. Vextar was a Krillian warlord who specialized in attacking peaceful colonies. The scaled reptilian was cruel even by raider standards. He didn't just steal, he enjoyed causing fear. What do we know about his current strength? Hyunwoo asked. Intelligence reports 12 heavy cruisers plus support vessels, replied Jinho, the Marine sergeant. He was built like a tank, with arms that could crush steel and a mind that planned every battle 3 moves ahead. Maybe 300 fighters. All Krillian design, tough but not too smart. Nara, the ship's doctor, looked up from her medical reports. She was small compared to the others, with gentle hands and a soft voice, but Hyunwoo had seen her perform surgery in the middle of a firefight without flinching. 12 ships against 1? Those are terrible odds. For them, Hyunwoo said with a cold smile. Woojin, how long to reach Haven's Rest at maximum speed? The communications officer checked his charts. 4 days, sir. But we'll arrive with minimal fuel for combat operations. Do it. Hyunwoo stood and looked around at his crew. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a colony to save. Yoonji pulled up tactical displays on the main screen. Captain, Vextar has overwhelming firepower. Even with our advanced weapons, we can't win a straight fight against 12 cruisers. Then we don't fight straight, Hyunwoo replied. What's our greatest advantage against raiders? Our reputation, said Soo-young, the chief engineer. She was quiet most of the time, preferring her engines to people, but she understood tactics as well as anyone. Half the galaxy thinks we're monsters. Exactly. Most species out there believe we're unstoppable killing machines from a death world. Let's not disappoint them. The Indomitable changed course and accelerated toward Haven's Rest. In the weapons bay, Jin-Ho prepared his Marines for combat. 24 men and women, each one trained to fight in conditions that would kill most aliens. They checked their gear with practiced efficiency. Nara prepared the medical bay for casualties. She had learned long ago that human stubbornness usually meant someone would get hurt doing something impossible. But it also meant they usually won. In engineering, Su-Young pushed the ship's systems to their limits. The Indomitable was a tough ship, built for long patrols and hard fighting. But it was still just one destroyer against a fleet. Hyunwoo spent the next 3 days planning. He studied everything they knew about Vextar and the Crimson Horde. The Krillian warlord was smart but predictable. He relied on fear and overwhelming force. He had never faced serious resistance from his victims. That was about to change. "Sir," Woo Jin called out as they approached the Haven's Rest system, "we're picking up the Raider fleet. 12 cruisers in orbital formation around the colony world. No sign of defensive emplacements." "Of course not," Hyunwoo muttered. "The Villani don't believe in weapons." He opened a channel to the entire ship. "All hands, this is the captain. In 1 hour, we enter combat against superior numbers. Our job is to protect innocent people who can't protect themselves. That's what humans do. That's what makes us different from the predators we hunt." He paused, looking at the tactical display. 12 red dots representing enemy ships, 1 blue dot representing them. "Remember, we're not just fighting for the Villani. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight for themselves. We're fighting to prove that strength should protect the weak, not prey on them. Make me proud." As they entered the Haven's Rest system, alarms started going off on the Crimson Horde ships. Vextar's fleet had expected many things, but not this. Not a lone human destroyer dropping out of hyperspace with weapons hot and engines burning. "Sir," Yoonji reported, "the enemy fleet is moving to intercept. They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our business." Hyunwoo smiled the same cold smile he always wore before a fight. "Open a channel to all ships in the system. Time to introduce ourselves." The crew took their positions. This was what they had trained for, what they lived for, somewhere on the planet below. Innocent people were counting on them. That was all the motivation any human needed. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Terran Defense Coalition," he announced to the system. "Vextar, you have 30 seconds to withdraw your fleet or face the consequences." The response came quickly, filled with hissing Krillian laughter. "1 ship? You send 1 ship against my fleet? Human, you will make a fine addition to my slave pens." 29 seconds, Hyunwoo replied calmly. On the planet below, the Villani colonists huddled in their underground shelters, listening to the transmissions. They had asked for help from monsters, and now they wondered if the cure would be worse than the disease. They were about to find out what humans could do when innocent lives were at stake. "Time's up," Captain Hyunwoo said quietly. But instead of opening fire, he did something that confused everyone in the system. He opened a general broadcast to all ships and began what sounded like a normal military communication. "TDC Battle Group 7, this is Indomitable," he said in a calm, professional voice. "We have arrived at the target system. Enemy fleet confirmed at 12 heavy cruisers. Requesting immediate backup." Silence filled the bridge. Woo Jin looked confused, but he had learned to trust his captain's plans. After a moment, he caught on and began playing his part. "Roger, Indomitable," he replied from a different console, making his voice sound like it was coming from far away. "Battle Group 7 is 30 minutes out. Carriers Vengeance and Retribution are launching fighters now. Admiral Kim sends her regards to any raiders foolish enough to attack innocents." On Vextar's flagship, the Krillian warlord stared at his communications officer. "What are they talking about? How many human ships are coming?" I don't know, sir," the nervous alien replied. "Our sensors only show 1 destroyer, but their communications suggest a much larger force." Vextar's scaled face twisted into a snarl. Intelligence had told him there were no human military forces in this sector. But humans were known for their deception, their ability to appear where they shouldn't be. On the Indomitable, Su-Young was working magic with the ship's systems. She rerouted power through secondary circuits, creating false sensor readings that made their 1 ship appear to be many. It was an old trick, but it worked if you didn't look too closely. "Sir," Yoonji announced loudly enough for the enemy to hear on the open channel, "I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple capital ships approaching fast." "Excellent," Hyunwoo replied. Begin deployment of assault troops. Marines, prepare for boarding operations. Jinho picked up the script smoothly. Sir, the boys are ready to go. Should we target the command ship first or just start tearing through their fleet ship by ship? Let's give them a chance to surrender first, Hyunwoo said. No point in making this messy if we don't have to. The psychological warfare was working. On 3 of Vextar's cruisers, captains were quietly discussing whether they should retreat. The Crimson Horde was strong against peaceful farmers and merchants, but fighting humans was different. Everyone knew the stories, but Hyunwoo wasn't done yet. He had studied Vextar's psychological profile. The Krillian was proud and cruel, but he was also smart enough to survive this long as a raider. He needed something more convincing than fake radio chatter. Woo Jin, he said quietly, play the Omega files. Woo Jin's fingers hesitated over his controls. The Omega files were classified recordings from previous human military operations. They were kept secret for good reason. They contained sounds that gave most aliens nightmares. Are you sure, sir? Do it. The transmission that followed made even the human crew uncomfortable. It was a recording from the Battle of Kepler Station, where human Marines had fought Keldarian pirates in zero gravity. The sounds were exactly what you would expect when humans fought aliens in a confined space with no rules and no mercy. Screaming. The sounds of metal being torn apart. Explosions. And underneath it all, human voices calling out tactical information in calm, professional tones while chaos erupted around them. Remember, came one recorded voice over the sounds of battle. We need at least one alive for questioning. Try not to break them all. The transmission lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, the silence in space was deafening. On Vextar's flagship, several junior officers had turned pale green. One had fainted. The warlord himself was trying to hide his own fear behind anger. Fake, he snarled. It has to be fake. They're trying to scare us, but his voice lacked conviction. Everyone in the galaxy had heard rumors about what happened when you made humans angry. Most species told themselves the stories were exaggerated. But what if they weren't? Sir, his sensor officer called out. I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with human stealth fighters in the asteroid belt. This was Dong-hyun's work. The pilot had taken his fighter on a wide loop around the system, using the asteroids to mask his approach. Now he was broadcasting false signatures that made it look like an entire squadron was hidden and waiting. Vextar stared at the tactical display. One destroyer he could handle. A full human battle group was a different matter entirely. The smart move would be to withdraw and find easier prey. But Vextar hadn't survived this long by being just smart. He was also stubborn. All ships, he commanded. Attack formation. If the humans want a fight, we'll give them one. Hyunwoo watched the enemy fleet begin to move. Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping they'd be smarter than that. Orders, sir? Hyunji asked. Now we show them why people call us Deathworlders. All weapons free. Target their command ship first. The Indomitable's guns spoke with thunder and lightning. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds reached across space to hammer into Vextar's flagship. The enemy's shields flared and held, but the message was clear. Humans didn't bluff about firepower. Sir, Nara called from her station, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. The Vellani are asking if they should evacuate their shelters. Tell them to stay put, Hyunwoo replied as he watched the enemy fleet spread out to surround them. This won't take long. Taimin, the young Vellani who had sent the original distress call, huddled with his family in their underground shelter. Above them, energy weapons lit up the sky like fireworks. The ground shook with each impact. What have we done? Whispered his father. We invited monsters to save us from monsters. Maybe, Taemin replied, watching the light show through a periscope. But our monsters are fighting their monsters, and that's better than facing them alone. In space, the battle was about to begin in earnest. Vextar's fleet had committed to the fight, but they still didn't know what they were really facing. They thought they were fighting one human ship with delusions of grandeur. They were about to learn the difference between fighting merchants and fighting predators. The Indomitable turned toward the enemy fleet, its weapons charging for the real battle to come. On the bridge, 24 humans prepared to show the galaxy why their species had earned its fearsome reputation. Not because they enjoyed violence, but because they were very, very good at it when innocent lives were at stake. The first lesson Vextar learned was that humans don't fight like other species. While the Krillian fleet moved into standard attack formation, the Indomitable did something unexpected. Instead of meeting them head-on or trying to run, It dove straight down toward the planet's gravity well, using the world's mass to slingshot around at impossible speed. "What are they doing?" Vextar demanded as the human ship disappeared behind Haven's Rest. "I don't know, sir," his tactical officer replied. "They're not following any known combat doctrine." That was because human combat doctrine was written by a species that had learned to fight everything on a world that wanted to kill them. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved on peaceful worlds. They fought with honor, with rules, with predictable patterns. Humans fought to win. The Indomitable came screaming out from behind the planet, moving faster than the Krillian ships could track. Unji had calculated the trajectory perfectly. They emerged right in the middle of the enemy formation, too close for the big guns to target them effectively. "Fire everything," Hyunwoo ordered. The human destroyer unleashed its full arsenal at point-blank range. Railguns punched through shields like they were made of paper. Plasma cannons turned armor plating into molten metal. Missile pods emptied their loads into enemy hulls. In 30 seconds, 3 Krillian cruisers were crippled. One was completely destroyed, its crew never knowing what hit them, but the Indomitable didn't stay to fight. Before the enemy could respond, it was gone again, diving back toward the planet for another gravity-assisted acceleration. "Impossible," Vextar hissed. "No ship can maneuver like that." He was wrong. Human ships were built different because humans were different. They could survive acceleration forces that would turn other species into paste. They could think clearly while their bodies were being crushed by gravity. They could fight while their inner ears screamed and their vision went black. On the Indomitable's bridge, the crew worked through G-forces that would have killed most aliens. Nara's gentle hands moved steadily over her controls even as the brutal acceleration tried to tear her apart. Woojin maintained communications while his body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. This was what it meant to be from a death world. "Coming around for another pass," Soo-young announced through gritted teeth. Her engines were running beyond safe limits, but she kept them together through sheer engineering skill and human stubbornness. The second attack was even more devastating. The Indomitable emerged from its gravity slingshot, moving at a significant fraction of light speed. It flashed through the enemy formation like a bullet, its weapons carving through 2 more cruisers before disappearing into the void. "Sir," the Krillian tactical officer's voice was shaking now. "We've lost 5 ships in 2 minutes." "How is this possible?" Vextar's scaled hands clenched into fists. "They're just 1 ship. Surround them. Pin them down." "But you can't pin down something that refuses to be caught." The Indomitable used every trick human ingenuity could devise. It hid in the planet's magnetic field where sensors couldn't track it. It used debris from destroyed ships as cover. It even flew through the upper atmosphere, something that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. "They're insane," whispered a Krillian gunner. "They're flying through the planet's atmosphere. The heat should tear their ship apart." On the human ship, the hull was indeed glowing red-hot, but human engineering was built for extremes. Soo-young had designed the heat dissipation systems herself, based on principles learned from spacecraft that had to survive Earth's violent weather. "Hull temperature is at 95% of safe limits," she reported calmly. "Noted," Hyunwoo replied. "Continue the attack run." By now, word of the battle was spreading through both fleets. The remaining Krillian ships were starting to panic. Some captains were quietly discussing retreat. Others were simply frozen in terror. But the real shock came when Jinho launched his boarding operation. "Sir," Yoonji called out, "we have a clean shot at the enemy command ship." "Negative," Hyunwoo replied. "We take Vextar alive." "Jinho, you're up." The Marine sergeant grinned behind his helmet. This was what he lived for. "Copy that, sir." Boarding party away. What followed was something no Krillian had ever seen before. Instead of docking with an airlock like civilized species, the humans cut their way directly through the hull. They used shaped charges to blow holes in armor plating, then swarmed through wearing suits that let them survive in vacuum. The Krillian defenders were brave fighters, but they had never faced anything like human Marines in close combat. Jinho and his team moved through the ship like sharks through water. They fought in zero gravity and toxic atmosphere, in conditions that would have stopped any other species. "Deck 7 secured," Jinho reported as his team cleared another compartment, moving to the bridge. The Krillians tried everything they could think of. They sealed blast doors, but the humans cut through them with tools that shouldn't have existed. They filled compartments with poisonous gas, but human filters were too good. They even tried cutting life support, not realizing that humans could fight for hours in their own recycled air. Bridge secured, Jinho finally announced. We have Vextar. The Krillian warlord was found cowering behind his command chair, his scaled skin pale with fear. This wasn't how battles were supposed to go. Where was the honor? Where were the rules? You fight like animals, he hissed at Jinho. The Marine sergeant tilted his head. No, we fight like humans. There's a difference. Animals kill for food or territory. We kill to protect people who can't protect themselves. With their leader captured, the remaining Krillian ships finally broke. 3 more tried to run, but Donghyun was waiting for them in his fighter. Using the asteroid field for cover, he picked them off one by one with precision strikes. The pilot was small compared to the Marines, but his reflexes were inhuman. He could process information and react faster than any computer. He flew through spaces that should have been impossible to navigate, making shots that defied physics. This is Ghost Leader, he reported as the last enemy ship exploded. No survivors attempting to escape. In 30 minutes, the entire Crimson Horde fleet was destroyed or captured. 12 heavy cruisers had been reduced to wreckage by 1 human destroyer, and its crew of 24. On the planet below, the Villani colonists emerged from their shelters to see burning wreckage falling from the sky like shooting stars. The battle was over. They were safe. But now they had to face their saviors. Taemin was the first to spot the human shuttle descending toward their settlement. It landed in the middle of their main garden, crushing flowers that had taken years to grow. The colonists gathered around it nervously, unsure what to expect. The airlock opened, and Captain Hyunwoo stepped out. He was bigger than they had expected, and the scars on his face told stories of violence they couldn't imagine. His dark eyes surveyed the damage the raiders had done to their beautiful settlement. Are you all right? He asked in careful, accented Villani. The simple question surprised them. After everything they had witnessed after the display of devastating military power, the first thing the human asked was about their welfare. Taemin stepped forward, his legs shaking. We are safe. Thanks to you. Hyunwoo nodded. Good. My medical officer will check anyone who was injured. My engineers will help repair the damage to your facilities. He paused, looking around at the frightened faces. I know we scared you, he said quietly. I know what the galaxy says about my people. But we came here for one reason, to protect innocent lives. That's what humans do. As if to prove his point, Nara emerged from the shuttle carrying medical supplies. Her gentle manner and soft voice immediately put the colonists at ease. Behind her came Su Young with repair equipment, already studying the damaged buildings with a professional eye. The monsters, it turned out, were also healers. 3 days after the battle, Haven's Rest looked different than it had before the raiders came, not just because of the repairs, but because of the people doing the repairing. Su Young worked alongside Villani engineers to rebuild their damaged communication array. The human engineer had gentle hands despite her rough appearance, and she took care not to disturb the flowering vines that grew around the equipment. Your technology is beautiful, she told Kwan Ho, the colony's chief engineer. Everything works in harmony with nature. On Earth, we had to learn to build like this the hard way. Kwan Ho watched her work with fascination. Despite her alien nature, despite the stories of human violence, she was helping them rebuild better than before. Why do you help us? Your government didn't order you to stay. Su Young paused in her work. Because that's what people do. When someone needs help, you help them. It doesn't matter if they're human or Villani or anything else. Near the medical center, Nara was teaching Villani healers about trauma treatment. The gentle doctor had spent the last 2 days caring for colonists who had been injured or traumatized by the raider attack. Physical wounds heal, she explained to Hyejin, a young Villani healer, but fear can last much longer. Your people need to know they're safe now. But are they? Hyejin asked quietly. What happens when you leave? What if more raiders come? Nara smiled. Then they call us again. That's what the TDC is for, to protect people who can't protect themselves. As long as there are predators in the galaxy, there will be humans hunting them. In the settlement center, Jinho was doing something that surprised everyone. The massive Marine sergeant was playing with Villani children, letting them climb on him like he was a friendly mountain. His squad watched in amazement as their tough leader became a jungle gym. "How can someone so scary be so gentle?" asked Miran, one of the mothers. Chang Ho, her husband, shook his head in wonder. "Maybe that's the point. Maybe being strong means protecting those who are weak." Captain Hyunwoo spent most of his time in meetings with the colony leaders, helping them plan for the future. But he also made time to walk through the settlement, talking to individual colonists and making sure they felt safe. On the third evening, he was approached by Elder Sungmin, the oldest Villani in the colony. The ancient alien moved slowly. His blue skin faded to silver with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "Captain," the elder said carefully, "may I speak with you?" "Of course." They walked together through the settlement's main garden. The flowers were beginning to bloom again after the damage from the battle. Villani children played nearby, their laughter filling the air. "I remember stories," Sungmin said slowly. "From when I was young, stories about the first time our species met yours. We were afraid then too," Hyunwoo nodded. "Fear is natural. We know what we look like to peaceful species. But I also remember other stories. Stories about human merchants who shared their food with starving colonies. Human doctors who worked for free in disaster zones. Human engineers who built schools and hospitals on worlds they would never see again." The elder stopped walking and looked directly at the human captain. "We asked for monsters to save us from monsters. But you're not monsters at all, are you?" Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. "We're what we need to be. When innocents are threatened, we become weapons. When people need help, we become healers. When children need protection, we become guardians. And when the work is done, then we go home and try to forget the things we had to do." Sungmin nodded slowly. "That is the burden of the strong, to carry darkness so others can live in light." That evening, the colonists held a celebration feast. It was a Villani tradition after any great success. But this time they insisted the humans join them. Tables were set up in the main garden, laden with the finest food Haven's Rest could produce. Jae Sung, the colony's cultural leader, stood to address the gathering. 3 days ago we thought we were doomed. We faced an enemy we couldn't fight, couldn't understand, couldn't defeat. In our desperation, we called for help from people we feared almost as much as our attackers." He gestured toward the human crew, who sat somewhat awkwardly at tables designed for smaller beings. "We learned something important. Strength without compassion is just brutality. But compassion without strength is helpless against evil. The galaxy needs both. It needs people who can fight and people who can heal. People who can destroy and people who can build." He raised his cup of fruit wine. "To the crew of the Indomitable. To the defenders of the innocent. To the proof that the strong can protect the weak without becoming predators themselves." The toast was echoed by every voice in the gathering. Even the human crew, somewhat embarrassed by the praise, raised their cups in acknowledgement. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, young Tae-min approached Captain Hyunwoo. The Villani who had sent the original distress call was carrying a small potted plant. "Captain," he said nervously, "this is for you. It's a peace blossom. It only grows in soil that has never known violence." Hyunwoo looked at the delicate flower with its pure white petals. "I don't understand. There was a battle here 3 days ago." "Yes," Taemin smiled, "but it wasn't violence for its own sake. It was protection. It was justice. The soil knows the difference." The captain accepted the gift with careful hands. "Thank you. I'll treasure it." The next morning, the Indomitable prepared to depart. Word of the battle had already spread across the galaxy through the hyperwave network. Other peaceful species were taking notice. For the first time in decades, many were considering that having Deathworlders as allies might not be such a terrible thing. As the human crew prepared to board their shuttle, the entire colony gathered to see them off. Children who had been terrified 3 days earlier now waved goodbye with genuine sadness. "Will we see you again?" called out Miran. "Hopefully not," Jinho replied with a grin. "If you see us again, it means you're in trouble." "But if we are in trouble?" asked Chang Ho. Captain Hyunwoo turned back to face the crowd. "Then we'll come. No matter how far, no matter how dangerous, no matter what the odds. That's a promise." The shuttle lifted off, carrying the human crew back to their ship. As the Indomitable departed the system, it left behind something that hadn't existed before. A friendship between species that seemed too different to ever understand each other. On Serenity Prime, Council Leader Boram received a message from Haven's Rest. It was simple and direct. The humans kept their word. We are safe. We are grateful. And we are no longer afraid. Boram smiled and composed a response to Captain Hyunwoo. Thank you for showing us that strength and kindness can exist in the same heart. The galaxy is a better place because of people like you. In the years that followed, the story of Haven's Rest spread throughout known space. It became a symbol of cooperation between species, proof that the strong could protect the weak without enslaving them. And in a small garden on a peaceful colony world, a peace blossom grew in soil that remembered the day monsters became heroes. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of people willing to stand against those dangers, no matter what world they came from or what species they belonged to. Sometimes when darkness fell across the stars, the innocent had someone to call for help, and the Deathworlders always answered.